Warm greetings from the high tech. It's Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. Happy Saturday to all of you. Hope you all are having a wonderful weekend. Please be safe. Uh, this content is pertaining to Tim Norman. Many of you may have patronized the reality show with his mother, Sweetie Pies. He was on that show up until this debacle he found himself in pertaining to a murder for hire plot against his own nephew. I'm going to bring you said content pertaining to the allegations against him. He has been found guilty in a court of law, and he will be sentenced in December pertaining to this murder plot. We'll go back in time and play you audio from the OWN network pertaining to conversations and clips from that reality TV show to go back to see how it came to be that this man would hire people to kill his own nephew for insurance policy. Hello, everybody. Thank you all so very much for joining me. Yes, the Queen is back with the live streams. Amen. Thank you so much. Let's get this information out here. If you're new to this network, welcome. Like, share, subscribe. Under 2,000 videos in the YouTube queue. So please check out my library, various topics, various conversations, various live streams. Please indulge. Thank you all so much for joining me. KMOV St. Louis is my first source, News 4.
Was reality TV star found guilty in a murder for hire plot. Tim Norman was known for appearing on the reality series Welcome to Sweetie Pies. Today, a jury said Norman planned his nephew's murder and tried to cash in on his life insurance. News 4's Susan Corey joins us live after following the very latest in this case.
Yeah, and Paige, prosecutors called it a crime that was motivated by greed, and that was enough for a federal jury. They spent almost 17 hours deliberating before they came out earlier this afternoon and said Tim Norman is guilty on all charges. A prosecutor said Norman took out a life insurance policy on his 21-year-old nephew, Andre Montgomery. That policy was worth $450,000. During the trial, an exotic dancer took the stand and testified that Norman paid her to follow his nephew. The accused shooter also testified that Norman paid him to pull the trigger. Both of them pled guilty to their parts in the crime. Meanwhile, Norman's lawyer called all of that a made-up theory.
He then used a paramour to locate Mr. Montgomery and a co-defendant to fatally shoot and kill him. And within days of his nephew's murder, Mr. Norman started the process of getting the insurance company to pay the claim.
Tim, as I was just saying, is extremely strong and optimistic. I know it hurts to the bottom of his soul, but I think he remains optimistic like we do that we can undo this by way of post-trial motions and or on appeal.
And we know Norman's sentencing is scheduled for December. He's facing up to life in prison. And as you heard Norman's lawyer just say, they're not done with this case, and they tell me that they do plan on appealing this.
All right, and we know that you'll be following it through that process.
Of course.
Susan, thank you.
All right, everybody. News 4, KMOV St. Louis is the source. You will be hearing various commentary in this live and a backlog of how this story came to be. Older commentary from patrons of this Sweetie Pies. So we're going to go back from this week to 2 years ago to 9 years ago to how this story unfolded. Thank you so much for joining me. All audio is posted to my community board if you need verification, if you need to rehear the said information. Thank you all so much for joining me. Let's hear from Miss Robbie, who 3 months ago an interview was done with Hip Hollywood, and she is in support of her son, who has now been found guilty for murdering her own grandchild. Thank you for joining me.
James Timothy Norman, who's accused of conspiring to kill his nephew, Andre Montgomery, nearly 5 years ago. In a recent interview with KTVI, the Welcome to Sweetie Pie star spoke about her son's ongoing case.
I've had tough times and I'm still having them. But God is good. And you know, they say He won't put no more on you than you can bear. I'm going through it. My son is in trouble right now, but I'm his mother, and I don't know no more about it than you because I hear about it when you do. But I'm there for him to support. That's what mothers do. We're doing to death do us part. Same as a marriage. So if something happens to your kid, you got to be there for him because you're their inspiration. And not that what he's involved in was good or bad. I don't know. But that's my son. And I can't abandon him now.
As previously reported, Norman was accused of hiring 30-year-old Travell Hill to kill Montgomery outside of a St. Louis, Missouri apartment complex. Hill was convicted of one count of conspiracy to commit murder for hire and another count of murder for hire, to which he pleaded guilty. Norman allegedly wanted his nephew killed, according to court documents, to obtain a $250,000 life insurance policy for which he was the sole beneficiary. Norman's trial date is slated for sometime in September. His girlfriend, Terica Ellis, and the insurance agent have also been charged. For Bollywood.com, I'm Jasmine Simpkins.
So you hear it there live. Miss Robbie, 3 months ago, this content came to fruition. She supporting her son. We're going to go ahead and use present tense. Miss Robbie, how can you support your son? You say in this interview, you sound stupid saying, I don't know if it's right or wrong. I beg your pardon? You mean you don't know that murder is wrong? So who taught you that murdering someone for no reason is right? Because in the eyes of the law and God, it's wrong no matter what your motive is for murder. Even if it's self-defense, it's still murder. I don't really know what's going on no more than you do as you get the information. Miss Robbie, are you really this ignorant? Come on now. You're an older lady. You should have a little bit more respect about yourself. Yeah, we know that's your son. We know we're supposed to support our children. But your commentary in this interview sounds bogus as hell and deluded as hell. You're talking about a marriage? Well, this isn't a marriage. That's your son. You're not married to your son. Okay? One, you're not married to your son, you're his mother. You also mentioned the word inspiration. So you are the inspiration for this spawn. Of course, you did breed him. You brought him into the world. And naturally, we're not supposed to judge people according to the sins they commit, whether they are our boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, children. But my, Miss Robbie, come on now. Inspiration, that's a heavy word. You don't know what's going on. You didn't know what's going on. Lady, 2 years in the making, your son was incarcerated up until trial, which was this month. And you want me to sit here and believe, or somebody saying, anybody saying, we are supposed to think, us sane people that are woke, because a lot of you aren't woke out there. But for this woke cookie up here, you want me to believe that you didn't know what this trial was about. So basically, you're telling me the police officers, district attorney's office, their investigator, plus the detectives just showed up at your son's house with an indictment for conspiracy to murder, and he has yet to explain to you the said charges. Is that what you're saying, Ms. Robbie? Wow. I must say, when you did this interview, you sealed it up. You showed the world that you don't give a damn what he did. You don't give a damn that he killed your own grandson. You're playing dumb like you don't know what the indictment and the said charges are about. You're downplaying the murder charge and the conspiracy to plot against the man that is now dead and your own family member. You just downplayed the entire conspiracy and the death of your own family member. Maybe perhaps you're in on it, because I'm going to take the viewing audience back in time to how this case came to be and how possibly the reason Tim put out a murder hit on his own nephew because of a robbery that took place in your home, Miss Robbie. And we're also going to play content from Andre's sister, who's spoken to the press this week. Thank you all for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji129 to Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome during this live by way of donation. Thank you all so much for your time. Let's go back in time. Well, before we go back in time, let's hear what the family had to say Mr. Andre's sister. My condolences to the family. But this has been a while since he's been murdered. But we're also going to go back in time and let you hear commentary between the family members on the show, Sweetie Pies, to show you how sick and diabolical this family is, to have this older woman, the matriarch of the family, supporting the murderer of his own nephew, and she's the grandmother, and obviously in cahoots. So one could wonder, Miss Robbie, did you know that he was going to take out a policy, insurance policy, to kill the nephew because you think he robbed you? Are you also complicit? Because you also hear of a girlfriend and an insurance agent also coming up on charges. I'm going to see if I can get the information to that. What's the whole truth about this plot? One network says 450,000. This network says 250,000. Either way, it's money. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. Wow, wow, wow. After I play all the audio and commentary in this live, I will drop the link, so you are free to hit the link to give your opinion pertaining to Tim's guilty verdict, the death of the nephew, the plot, what all Miss Robbie knows pertaining to the plot, her denial in this situation, which is to me just jacked up. That's my personal opinion, because I heard it here live out her own mouth, so I don't have to assume anything about how she feels about her son. She spoke it. She's downplaying everything, in my opinion, and she's supporting her son. This is bad. All right, everybody. Let me pull up this content pertaining to the relative speaking. I think I've got it on in another place. I have to store everything just so I can bring you all the said information. Thank you all so much for joining me. Okay, here we go. Victim family reacts to the guilty verdict.
This is justice. I'm glad they put that monster behind bars for life.
Yeah.
As a reality TV personality heads to court, a guilty verdict today. He's found guilty of arranging the murder of his own nephew. The jury deliberated about 17 hours before reaching a verdict in the murder for hire case against James Norman, a star of Welcome to Sweetie Pies. Our Justina Cornell has followed the trial from the very beginning. She's live outside of the federal courthouse in downtown St. Louis. Justina.
Yeah, Brent, so just 5 minutes ago, Andre Montgomery Jr.'s family arrived here at the federal courthouse, and they're about to do a balloon release in honor of Andre Montgomery Jr. Now, earlier today, we actually heard reactions from both sides. Norman's family was upset, and Montgomery's family was cheering outside and celebrating. It was after the verdict, the defense attorney spoke to us saying they were disappointed and thought Norman's lengthy testimony was convincing. As for the prosecutors, they say the evidence is overwhelming, and Norman's plan was simple, saying Norman plotted to kill his nephew to get $450,000 in life insurance money. A few hours ago, we spoke to both sides on camera.
Despite the verdict, has a lot of optimism that we're going to overcome this and ultimately prevail.
He ruined multiple lives, not just ours, but multiple lives. And, it's some peace, but not like my brother's not going to come back.
Now, as far as what's next, we're told Tim Norman's attorneys plan to appeal, and the sentencing day is December 15th. Reporting live, Justina Cornell, live on your side.
All right, everybody. KSDK 5 News is the source of that said information. I want to go back in because there's more to that information in an interview where I heard the sister speaking, giving her full commentary. I want to try to find that. 1 second. Thank you all so much for joining me. It's a very sad situation. Well, now I can't find it. Let's see. Well, I thought I had it here. Hope you all are well out there, having a safe weekend. There's so many pieces I want to play for you, just little short clips pertaining to this information. I didn't save that one video that I wanted you all to hear. I'm going to see if I can try to find it. Very sad. Very sad indeed. Thank you all so much for joining me. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm trying to pull up some information that I want to play because his sister is speaking to the news. This is part commentary I just played, but they didn't play all of what she had to say. I think this is the girl's channel I want to find it on. Let me see where she played. Yes, this is the information I want to play right here. This is from somebody else's network. I want to play part of what this lady was saying to the news. They didn't play all of it just now, but I found this on another network where they're talking about, where the sister is speaking about Miss Robbie's role. Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much, sweetie. Let's get into this conversation here. 1 second. Let this sister, she's venting naturally because this is her brother that was murdered. But she's speaking of Miss Robbie. I want to get some understanding here. Hold on, you guys. I don't want to play this person's audio, but we're going to try to see what else they're talking about. It's kind of muffled.
And it's so messy that he reached out to his grandma and she ignored that. Yes, he told us. We told her. He told all of us. So before he died, Robbie called his phone and was cussing him out and would say, "Mother F, you ain't my grandson. F you, Mother F, blah, blah, blah." And he was saying, "Grandma, I didn't do it. I'm trying to tell you, Grandma, Uncle Tim did it." And she was just going on cussing him out. And you ain't gonna come to my friend, I ain't gonna go to your friend. And just like, "Grandma, I didn't do it. I'm trying to tell you, I didn't do it." Me and my sisters, and we were all sitting there like, "Great, we didn't do it, don't worry about it." We threw his phone. He was, "I'm gonna be one of God's soldiers." Right there when he told me that means he's gonna sacrifice to kill his grandmother, and he did not rob his grandmother. He did not rob his grandmother. And that day, that's when he left, and that's when we found out he died. She knew, she was aware of it. She was aware of it. For her to walk in at the time. Tim didn't stay at the grill. Tim shot the whole tree. He didn't come to the view. He came there with blue vest on, with bodyguard, and we thought that, how come y'all didn't think that was weird? Like, they come from all the way to Lubbock, Texas. No emotions, nothing. Him and the grandma just standing back behind me talking and whispering. I kept looking at that like, are y'all for real? Why everyone's crying? Are y'all for real? And then it said, I don't know why they crying. Anyway, at the funeral, they wasn't crying. We was on our way to the burial site. Tim stopped the whole traffic. My thing is this: why would you allow your son to stop the traffic to get blood flooded? This is important. This is your nephew. Funeral. Your only nephew from your brother only had one child. Why? No one said nothing. No one said eyebrow. No one said anything. I paid attention to all of that. I said, yeah, they got something to do. To catch a flight to LA, that's not that important. You didn't go to the wake. You just want to make sure he was dead. And that's what you did. And you left. My mother, you don't call my mother to send money and food. My mother would buy pizza out here to feed him. My mother was doing all of that. That was a lie. They had my brother out here in a slump.
They had this to say about Andre's living conditions.
Rusty stove inside of it. Like a Salvation pipe. Two little iron metal chairs. It was so small, just a little box.
Kind of muffled this audio. Sorry.
And then Andre expressed how Tim felt about him.
He told me then that Tim didn't like him. He told me that Tim spent years to come and see him. But whenever Andre went over to Tim to visit, Tim got mad at him. Always turned to Andre for attention. They wanted to Tim told him he didn't allow him back over anymore because when he was in the bed there, he could see him.
And then they provided confirmation as to why Tim felt the way he did about Andre.
And Tim was jealous. He was very jealous. Tim's a lawyer. Andre's a lawyer. He's the last minute I would have found the family. So if anything happened to the brother, Tim would like him. Because he want to make sure he got whatever goes with his mom because of their reason. And he's willing to take his nephew's life. And anybody else, I wouldn't be surprised if he had anything on his mom. That's how bad he was treated from her.
Then the family addressed the accusation that Andre had stolen money from Miss Robbie by saying this.
If Ray had robbed Miss Robbie, he would have been flashing everywhere. He would have been having friends on deck down the living room, making flights, living large. Ray didn't do that. There's no way he would do that. He's not a thief. Ray is not a thief.
It's good to see the judicial system work as it's intended. If you haven't already, remember to...
Okay. Let's chop up that information. That audio is a bit muffled of the sister and these relatives standing outside talking to the press. Was Tim jealous of this nephew, the nephew who he murdered? Because he ordered the plot. May not have pulled the trigger, but he ordered the plot against his own relative. Was the nephew grandmother close? They say he was the last lineage, the only brother's child. Did he feel like this boy might get left something? This nephew, money's from the mother, Miss Robbie. I don't know. You hear of them whispering at the funeral, fake crying, blah, 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 leaving, holding up, I guess, the procession or whatever. Very strange information. Only coming to confirm that actually that is the nephew dead in the casket. And some people do need confirmation. You understand? Because sometimes if the police gets involved of the plot, they will set it up to make it seem as if the person is deceased in order to get a reaction from the co-conspirators and the shooters, the killers, to lead them to believe that the person is dead when actually they're not. So that's possibly why he went, was to make sure that was actually him in the casket. But really didn't care because he is the reason he's dead, as you see now in this guilty verdict. The nephew was accused of robbing Miss Robbie of jewels and money. I'm going to bring you that said commentary here in a minute. Did the young man rob his grandmother? As you hear in this commentary, these relatives are saying they were present when he called the grandmother and he denied it. And you also hear another relative say he would have been flashy and, buying his friends things. He would have shown what he had. And I agree, because young people are very ignorant in their behaviors. I think many of you have seen that with young people. They like to show off. They like to talk. They like to brag. And even if he never admitted to anybody that he robbed his own grandmother, I think if I stole money and I like nice things, I'm going to go buy nice things. I think the average person would that likes nice things. Isn't that the purpose of you stealing the money? And the jury, whatever, is to buy stuff that's nice. Even if you don't wear the jury exactly, you want to show it off. Okay, Joel, thank you so much. Okay, I didn't know he spent time in prison. So in this commentary, you hear the relatives, the sister saying, we were there when he called Miss Robbie, trying to explain it wasn't him, that it was Tim. So let's ask ourselves that question. What information did the dead boy have against his own uncle to say, hey, it wasn't me, it was him? But let's go here. Let's just say he was thirsty, Tim, maybe vengeful against his own mother, because you do have these type of sick dynamics between mother and son, mother and daughter. Who's to say he didn't tell the young boy, hey, I know where we can hit a lick. It's going to be grandma's house. Who's to say the young boy didn't go along with it? I don't know because I don't know him. But since Joel has put this in the chat, if he's committed crimes before as a young man for theft, robbery, then he has the propensity to do it. And two, you can have the propensity even if you don't have a criminal record or been caught for theft. Let's make that clear. So who's to say he didn't go to this nephew and conspire with him? Hey, help me do this. Maybe the young boy said, no, I ain't about to get involved. Maybe he did help him. I don't know. But hearing this information, the sisters are saying and relatives are saying, no, he called grandma to tell her, no, it wasn't me. I never would do that. It was Tim. But don't you find it interesting? Here at the end, she is supporting her son in murdering her own grandchild. And I'm also going to bring you information to this theft of the house of Miss Robbie's jewels and money. And also the fact that Miss Robbie and Tim weren't all that great at mother-son relationships because she was suing him at one time. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Let's bring you the backdrop of how this story came to be. Thank you all so much for your time. Happy Saturday to everybody in the chat. I will drop the link after I play all audio and commentary in this live. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. All right. The motive for murder. Is it revenge? Because allegedly the nephew robbed Miss Robbie. Andre robbed her allegedly. Is this the motive for Tim finding people to shoot him? You also heard commentary just now that they had him living in squalor when he went out there to live. Why was that? Didn't offer him a car to drive. Why was that? Why did you need him there if you weren't going to help him get on his feet to better himself? Thank you so much for joining me. Was there jealousy between Tim and Mr. Andre, his own nephew, competing for Miss Robbie's attention or her worldly goods? Tim wanted to be the only one to stand to inherit everything she owned. But look at the price he paid in the end. He is now incarcerated, will be facing sentencing December 15th of this year. All right, everybody. St. Louis Post said information. Police report reveals new details and lead up to killing of Sweetie Pie's owner's grandson. This was uploaded September 21st, 2020. Prosecutors stunned many in St. Louis last month when they brought a murder for hire charge against a star of a long-running St. Louis reality TV show about a wholesome family soul food business. Now police files recently obtained by the Post-Dispatch reveal more about a burglary involving cash jewelry worth at least $220,000 that rocked the famous family in the months leading up to what prosecutors say was a plot to kill a 21-year-old member of the family. The burglary was reported the evening of June 15, 2015 at the North St. Louis County home of Robbie Montgomery, a former backup singer for acts such as Ike and Tina Turner. In 1996, she opened the first of her Sweetie Pie's restaurants in Delwood. By 2015, Montgomery was 74 and known as Miss Robbie on Welcome to Sweetie Pies, a reality show about her restaurants and was broadcast on OWN. Her son, James Timothy Norman, who went by Tim, and her grandson, Andre Montgomery Jr., were regularly featured on the show. On the night of the burglary, Miss Robbie called police when she returned home from a vacation to discover her house had been ransacked. Her life savings and retirement fund she kept in cash in drawers and safes were gone. The police documents reveal officers initially suspected Andre Montgomery in the burglary. Very interesting. And after a few months out of town, he agreed to return to St. Louis to speak with police and take a polygraph test on March 10, 2016. That day, Andre denied being involved in the theft and told police he thought his uncle, Norman, was behind it. St. Louis County Police never closed the burglary case, but 4 days after Andre Montgomery was questioned, the 21-year-old was shot and killed near Fairground Park. Last month, Norman, 41, was charged in federal court and accused of conspiring with at least two others in the plot to kill Andre Montgomery and collect on a life insurance policy against his nephew. Andre's final months. Andre Montgomery joined the Welcome to Sweetie Pie's cast around 2011 after he came to live with his grandmother, Miss Robbie. The show depicted Miss Robbie and her grandson visiting the grave of his father, Miss Robbie's son, Andre Montgomery Sr., who was stabbed and killed during a fight in Los Angeles in 1995 when his son was an infant. The younger Montgomery grew up in Lubbock, Texas with his mother, but would spend summers in St. Louis with Miss Robbie. He moved into her basement full-time around 2010 after he had behavioral problems in Texas. The teenager was a paid cast member of Welcome to Sweetie Pies, appearing in a chicken costume in scenes promoting the family restaurant, pursuing a rap career, and graduating from McClure North High School in 2013. But Miss Robbie's grandson got kicked off Welcome to Sweetie Pies by 2015 because he posted images with guns and what appeared to be marijuana on his social media accounts and refused to take them down, according to a police interview with Miss Robbie, who declined to be interviewed for this story. She told police her grandson moved for a few months back to Lubbock after his high school graduation, but was encouraged to return to St. Louis in September 2014 by his uncle, Norman, according to police records. When he returned, Miss Robbie paid for an apartment for her grandson in the Central West End and his tuition for a community college music program, according to the records. Eventually, however, Andre Montgomery stopped going to class and was asked to leave the apartment building because his landlord accused him of using marijuana, police said. After that, he was renting a room in a boarding house for $120 a month and continued to work at Sweetie Pies up until May 2015, around the time of the burglary at his grandmother's home. That week, he asked for his final paycheck and left the city. He didn't return for around 9 months, but later explained to police he didn't come back because family members were accusing him of the crime that took his grandmother's life savings, the burglary. As I walked into the house, I immediately noticed the house was completely ransacked. Every closet and drawer was rummaged through, and items were all over the house, reads an account written by the St. Louis County police officer who responded to the burglary at Miss Robbie's home. 2 handguns, at least $200,000 in cash, bottles of alcohol, and gold and diamond jewelry were all stolen. Mink coats and designer clothes were thrown around the house. Okay, so imagine that. She has mink coats, but they didn't take that. They didn't take her clothes. What about purses? I mean, you can get a little money off of Louis Vuitton handbags and such. Very interesting. Miss Robbie explained to police that she picked up the habit of keeping savings in cash when she was a backup singer, according to the police report. And let me also say that when our great Aretha Franklin passed, she also kept cash money stored in her home as well. I believe under the couch, sofa seats is what I heard. All right, everybody, we can get back here. Miss Robbie explained to police that she picked up the habit of keeping savings in cash when she was a backup singer, according to the report. She told officers she would place a portion of her night's earnings in her boot and continued the habit through her life. She told police she thought whoever broke into the house must have known her alarm code. Stay woke, everybody. Only a few close members had assets, including her son, Norman, and grandson, Andre Montgomery, the report said. Police began to investigate Andre Montgomery because of his disappearance shortly after the burglary. He had told family members he had a gig for his rap group out of town, though relatives had never heard of him getting paid to perform before, according to interviews summarized in the police report. Police also tracked photos Andre Montgomery posted to social media of him posing with a large amounts of money and new clothes. Police listed him as a suspect in the crime, but he did not return to St. Louis until 9 months after the burglary because he was facing a misdemeanor assault charge in Texas and not allowed to leave that state. Once the Texas charge was dropped, he agreed to speak with police and travel to St. Louis. He told the police he left St. Louis to be with a girl who was moving to Florida, but lied to family members because he didn't think they would let him miss work for that reason. Okay, that makes no sense. Because if you're going to move, just tell your family you're going to move. I don't really understand that. He explained the cash he posed with on social media was given to him by the same girl, and she confirmed his account to police. Andre Montgomery told police he thought Norman was behind the burglary. Norman was in California at the time of the break-in, but Andre Montgomery told officers he believed Norman had the influence to orchestrate it. Now, don't you find that interesting? Andre, who is now dead, by the hands of an orchestration from Tim, said to police before dying that I believe he had the influence to orchestrate it. Now, why would a person say that about their own uncle to the police? I do believe he would have the influence, which means coercion, manipulation, to get somebody to do it, and yet those words came back to haunt this same person who spoke those words because Tim orchestrated the murder plot of him. That's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Andre Montgomery explained to officers at the time that his grandmother was trying to remove Norman from some of Sweetie Pie's business ventures. Yes, and I had heard about that. Miss Robbie eventually sued Norman in June 2016, claiming his operation of 3 out-of-state Sweetie Pie restaurants amounted to copyright infringement. Andre Montgomery took a polygraph test at police headquarters on March 10, 2015, but the results were inconclusive. He told police he had used marijuana the night before, so officers asked him to return later after a period of refraining from the drug. Andre Montgomery was killed 4 days later. St. Louis County Police never applied for charges against anyone else in the burglary, an alleged plot. Federal prosecutors wrote in an indictment announced in August that Norman took out $450,000 in life insurance policies, plural, on his nephew a year before the burglary in 2014, making himself the sole beneficiary. So this man had been plotting the death of this young man for a year and then went out and got several policies, if you all are listening carefully, because this is plural now. By March 2016, prosecutors alleged Norman hired Tarika Ellis, 36, an exotic dancer who was working in Memphis at the time, to lure his nephew to a St. Louis location. Ellis used to work at the Bottoms Up Club in Metro East and had been intimate with Norman in the past. St. Louis Police Detective Donald Thurman testified at a Tennessee court hearing earlier this month. Police believe Norman promised to pay her $10,000. Thurman testified. He testified that the night of the shooting, Andre Montgomery came out of a building on Natural Bridge Avenue to meet Ellis, and a third party shot him. Federal charging documents say in the days after the shooting, Ellis deposited more than $9,000 in cash into several bank accounts. Norman is accused of then trying to collect on his nephew's life insurance policies, but was never able to get the money, according to the court documents. Thurman testified that Ellis told police that the burglary at Miss Robbie's home had made Norman's boys want to get up on his nephew. Ellis and Norman were both indicted by a federal grand jury on charges of conspiracy to commit murder for hire or murder for hire resulting in death. Norman also faces an additional charge of conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud. Norman's life insurance agent, Wally Yagnam, 42, also was charged with 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud. Yagnam is accused of providing false information on the life insurance policies, including information about Andre Montgomery's income. Yagnam worked in life insurance after a career in the music industry that included producing rapper Nelly's hit 2002 album, Nellyville. After the charges, TV clips from Welcome to Sweetie Pie circulated, showing Norman mourning the death he is now accused of setting up. Norman visited the scene of the killing with his mother and TV cameras in a 2016 episode. Since Andre's passing, I haven't gone through this part of the city, Norman said on the show. Really, I've been avoiding it. Wow, what a piece of information. This is crazy to me. This information I just brought to you is the St. Louis Post-Dispatch if you need verification for the said information. Wow, what a story indeed. This is the information pertaining to the guilty verdict of Tim Norman. WRAL News is the source. Jury finds son of Sweetie Pie's owner guilty in murder for hire plot to kill nephew. This was just uploaded yesterday. After over 17 hours of deliberations, the jury in the trial of the son of Robbie Montgomery, reality TV star and owner of Sweetie Pie's restaurant, who was charged with commissioning a murder for hire plot that killed his teenage nephew in 2016, issued a guilty verdict. James Timothy Norman, 41, was found guilty on all charges, including conspiracy to commit murder for hire resulting in death, and conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office of Eastern District of Missouri. According to the criminal complaint against Norman, he had conspired with an exotic dancer residing in Memphis, Tennessee, and others to use a facility of interstate commerce, namely a cellular telephone, to commit a murder for hire in exchange for United States currency. Mr. Norman's crimes were motivated by greed, and while the evidence was voluminous and overwhelming, Mr. Norman's plan was relatively straightforward. He fraudulently obtained life insurance in an amount of $450,000 on his nephew, Andre Montgomery, without Mr. Montgomery's knowledge. He then used a paramedic to locate Mr. Montgomery and a co-defendant to fatally shoot and kill him. Within days of his nephew's murder, Mr. Norman started the process of getting the insurance company to pay the claim, U.S. Attorney Sailor Fleming said following the verdict. Norman's sentencing is currently set for December 15. At that time, he is looking at a statutory penalty range of up to life imprisonment. Norman's defense attorney, Mike Leonard, said his firm was surprised and disappointed in the outcome, given that Norman himself had testified extensively during the trial. But we understand the work of the jury. We respect that. But it's with a lot of disappointment that I stand before you here today, Leonard said, noting that an appeal would be filed. Tim is an amazingly optimistic and strong guy, so he's been in custody for quite a long time already. He had to sit through the deliberations by himself, and he's very strong. He's a very strong person. And so I think he's still, despite the verdict, has a lot of optimism that we're going to overcome this and ultimately prevail, the attorney added. What a crocodile. Montgomery was the star of Welcome to Sweetie Pies that chronicled her family's management of their popular business. Various family members, including Norman, would appear frequently. The show aired on the OWN network for 9 seasons from 2011 to 2018. Oh, Lordy, have mercy. WRAL.com is the source. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me. Found guilty for a hire plot to kill his own nephew. $450,000 in insurance. Insurance agent also got the brunt of this fake, fraudulent paperwork, doctoring income for the said document. He's faced also mail wire fraud, Mr. Tim. Mother still supporting him, Miss Robbie, sister of the decedent, says that he did not rob his grandmother many moons ago. He said possibly Tim did that. That is what he told officials. He never got to take a polygraph for the second time because he was killed 4 days later after talking to law enforcement about the robbery at his grandmother's home. Only 2 people had the code besides Miss Robbie to that house. That was Tim and the grandson. Who robbed Miss Robbie? Did the 2 set it up between each other and then he turned on the nephew? Or did Tim do it? And as you heard in this commentary, that the late Andre said to the police, he has the influence to orchestrate it. So don't you find that strange? The dead man's last words to police before dying days later is that Tim has the influence to orchestrate it, and all along he was orchestrating that very person's death 1 year before, and that boy dies 4 days later from telling the police he thinks Tim did it. And to this day, Robbie is still supporting him. I played you audio at the beginning of this live pertaining to her commentary of her feelings for her son. But yet, she sued her son for opening up other Sweetie Pie restaurants without her consent. Did you find that interesting? So that shows you he's greedy, because how are you going to open up a restaurant, plural, and don't notify the person whose names you're putting the restaurants in? You don't go tell your mom, oh, by the way, I went over here to Texas and opened a restaurant. Hey, I went down here to Tennessee and opened a restaurant. You think she's not going to hear about it? You think people aren't going to call on her phone and say, oh, I didn't know you had a restaurant in Tennessee. Oh, I didn't know you had one in, Texas. But yet, this is the person she's supporting. This is some interesting information. Very, very interesting. Thank you all so much for joining me. Oh, wow. What a mess. What a mess. I want to make sure I'm playing all the content. All right, everybody. Let's go back to the YouTube queue. We're going to go back in time pertaining to this debacle between all these participants and see how all this fake love conversation, inviting this young boy to come out to Missouri to work, be on a TV show, how it ended in his demise, a plot from his own uncle. And we would also have to wonder if Miss Robbie also knew of the plot to kill her grandson. Because would she also be involved in the plot to have her own house robbed? I don't know. Because the fact that she's supporting her son, knowing he killed her grandchild, but maybe she felt some type of way. I don't care if he's killed or murdered. He robbed my house. So what? Big deal. You hear the sister saying they were whispering the whole time during the funeral. So is this Miss Robbie, this diabolical? Was she, one, conspire to have her own house robbed? Two, conspire to have her own grandson killed because she thinks he robbed her house? I don't know. It's a very vicious story. Very vicious story. All right, everybody. Let's go back in time. We're gonna play a little bit of audio from the trial, and then we're gonna go back to when they had the reality show. Thank you so much for joining me. Key witness says Sweetie Pie's reality star paid her $10,000. This was uploaded 8 days ago. NBC5 is the source of this information. Wow. Can't make this stuff up. KSDK News if you need verification.
Who pled guilty in a murder for hire case took the stand today in Tim Norman's trial. The Welcome to Sweetie Pie star is accused of being the mastermind in the death of his nephew, Andre Montgomery Jr. Our Justina Cornell was in the courtroom.
Today, the jury heard from two key witnesses. Tarika Ellis and Traville Hill have already pled guilty in this case and took the stand this afternoon. Ellis was a stripper at the time, and she says she was in a sexual relationship with Norman for a few years. A week before the shooting, she was dancing at an East St. Louis club and met Montgomery, and they exchanged numbers from there. She tells the jury back in 2016, Norman asked her to help find his nephew and would pay her $10,000 to do so. She agreed. She shares the two got burner phones and tracked down Montgomery. As for Hill, he's the alleged shooter, and in court, he admitted to killing Montgomery, shooting him twice. He says he was paid $5,000. Hill shares Norman was a mentor to him and took responsibility for killing Montgomery. Now, court will resume tomorrow morning and will be in the courtroom updating you with the very latest across social media and our website, ksdk.com.
Are you all hearing this information? Tim is stupid enough to go into court and testify himself in court, but yet these two have already pled guilty to conspiring and murdering the young man. You paid the stripper $10,000 to lure him to the meetup spot, but you only paid the killer $5,000. And mind you, each have pled guilty. The stripper, she's no morning star. She looks like a kid in this photograph in a mugshot. Are y'all listening to this? You know you conspired to kill your own damn nephew, but yet you will go into court and testify as if what? Oh, I didn't do it. And know that he pled not guilty originally to this charge when he was indicted for conspiring to kill his own nephew. And these two have already pled. The stripper who lured him to the spot, and then the guy who did the shooting. And what's interesting is he pays the stripper more money than he pays the damn shooter. You're supposed to pay the shooter the $10,000 and pay her the $5,000 for luring him. I can't. And I wonder if she ever told him that, the shooter. Where did the shooter come from? Did he know the shooter personally, or did the girl know the shooter? I want to know who knew the shooter personally. Very curious to that information. What a mess. See, you don't know people. This is what happens when people think they know people. You don't know anybody out here. Let's hear from the life insurance experts. They took the stand. KSDK News 5 is also the source for this information. Wow. Can't make this stuff up. Thank you all so much for joining me on this Saturday afternoon. Hope you all are well.
Our testimony in a murder for hire trial wrapped up for the day. Reality TV star Tim Norman allegedly plotted to kill his nephew, Andre Montgomery Jr. Norman first first rose to fame for the show, welcome to Sweetie Pies. And 5 on your side, Justina Cornell has been in the courtroom all day, and she joins us live from the federal courthouse with what she heard today. Justina.
Yeah, Mike, we heard from several witnesses today, and a good chunk of the day was actually listening to life insurance agencies. And that's because 2 years before the murder, I should say, prosecutors say Norman took out a life insurance policy on his 21-year-old nephew for $450,000, making Norman as the sole beneficiary. Now, today, different representatives took the stand talking about the red flags popping up when Norman's life insurance agent tried to get a policy under his nephew's name. Well, Rabbi Yegneman, who already pled guilty, tried doing this 5 times. Now, one manager said it was, quote, odd having an uncle trying to get coverage on their nephew, and the amount was alarming. Now, the defense says it was never Norman who personally applied for these policies, pointing the finger to Yegnem. Now, the prosecutor's rebuttal was, despite that, the person who would financially benefit from Montgomery's death is Norman as the beneficiary.
Exactly.
Now, when court wrapped up today, the judge said smart witness will be a lengthy one, and I tried to find out who that witness was, but I was told it was one we would not want to miss. And of course, I'll be back in the courtroom here at 8:30 a.m., and I'll make sure to update you on our website, case2k.com, and across our social media. Reporting live, Justina Cornell, right on your side.
All right, everybody, that's KSDK News 5. Miss Jackson in the chat has commented, Miss Robbie had to know Tim stole her money. How did he pay all the people that helped him kill Andre? Well, I don't know, Joel. The point is they also got paid for being on the show, sweetheart. So they have their own money. Each person got a check from their own network for participating in the show. So they made some money from being on the show. And the robbery took place way before the murder. And he's good at coming up with ways to do things. So I don't think there'd been no problem him finding $15,000. The fact that the experts say they saw red flags, the fact that Tim obviously went around trying to get policies, different various places, and this rabbi guy, I don't understand if they were trying to say he's done this before or Tim had done this before. Let me go back a little bit on that audio one more time.
So we heard from several witnesses today, and a good chunk of the day was actually listening to life insurance agencies. And that's because 2 years before the murder, I should say, prosecutors say Norman took out a life insurance policy on his 21-year-old nephew for $450,000, making Norman as the sole beneficiary. Now, today, different representatives took the stand talking about the red flags popping up when Norman's life insurance agent tried to get a policy under his nephew's name. Well, Rabbi Yegneman, who already pled guilty, tried doing this 5 times. Now, one manager said it was, quote, odd having an uncle trying to get coverage on their nephew, and the amount was alarming. Now, the defense says it was never Norman who personally applied for these policies, pointing the finger to Yegnem. Now, the prosecutor's rebuttal was, despite that, the person who would financially benefit from Montgomery's death is Norman as the beneficiary.
So the rabbi guy tried it 5 times. Well, that's one thing you have to ask yourself is the obvious. How would this rabbi guy know anything about Andre? Think about that. How would he know anything about Andre to go try to take policies out on him? He had to have gotten the information from Tim. And as this commentary relates, Tim would be the beneficiary. So it doesn't even matter who put everything down on ink and paper. Tim would be the sole beneficiary of the life insurance policy. So if the policy goes through, this rabbi guy, he's not the one that's going to get the damn money. It's going to be Tim. Tim will possibly throw him something for writing up the policies, knowing that they're fraudulent. But that's the point. He'd have to wait to get anything from him, the rabbi. But you willingly knew the information was fake because you're the one that put it on the documents. And you had to at some point try to question this man about the information he gave you about the nephew. Why such a high amount, which they, as you hear here, it's alarming. And then the fact that you tried it 5 times means you knew the information Tim gave you was fraudulent. So the defense, I don't know how you thought that was going to play out in court, that people were going to sit there and believe this BS, that Tim had no knowledge that this man was trying to get 5 policies at what in his nephew's name. Why would this stranger do that? Lord have mercy. You can't make this stuff up. Thank you all so much for joining me. This is bad. All right. So now we got information that a key witness was paid $10,000. The stripper, she testified. We got information coming from insurance experts. They took the stand. Let's hear what the FBI agents have to say pertaining to the testimony in court this week, past week. KSDK is also the source of this information. This is pertaining to the whereabouts of the reality star during the murder of his nephew. Thank you for joining me.
Now at 6, a reality TV star will have to wait a little longer to learn his fate. The prosecution for a high-profile murder-for-hire trial rested its case today. Court will resume Monday. Good evening. I'm Brent Solomon. The Welcome to Sweetie Pie's reality TV star Tim Norman is accused of plotting to kill his nephew, Andrew Montgomery Jr. Now at 6, our Justina Cornell has been covering this trial since the very beginning. She's live from the federal courthouse in downtown St. Louis. Justina, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Brent. So we heard from 2 FBI agents who were able to track down where Norman was on the day of the murder. Now, these agents went step by step from flight details to cell phone tower pings. Their testimony shares Norman flew from California to St. Louis early in the morning on the day his nephew was killed. Montgomery was killed at 8:02 in the evening. They also shared travel records showing Norman leaving St. Louis just a few hours after the shooting. Now, they also revealed in a text from 2018, Norman allegedly telling his lawyer he was in California at the time of the shooting. Now, the government rested their case today, and the defense brought its first witness. He was a security guard at the restaurant and knew Norman well. He described Norman as someone who was always truthful and nonviolent. Now, court has wrapped up for the day, and it will resume on Monday at 9 a.m., and the defense will bring more witnesses, and of course, we'll be in the courtroom to tell you more of the details coming up next week. Reporting live for now, Justina Cornell.
All right, testimony shows you jumped on a plane, Tim, after the shooting. Well, we know why you did that, because you wanted to make sure he was shot down, dead, confirmed dead at the hospital. When you got the confirmation, you jumped on an airplane. How about that? Security guard, you're like everybody else. You can only speak of what you know of a person at that time. So perhaps he portrayed himself nice to you, but maybe he wasn't so nice to Andre. And we also had commentary in the chat that on the TV show, which I didn't watch, so I can't say. Someone in the chat said he was very mean to some of the younger relatives. So we're going to go back in time, as I said, and see how these people were so fake to one another. This relationship between Robbie and Tim has not always been great. This was uploaded 5 years ago by the OWN network. Tim learns that Miss Robbie had sued him for $100 million. Wow, so much for love between mommy and son. But yet she's supporting him now in the murder of her own grandson. Can't make this stuff up.
Mom sued me for $100 million. She's saying I don't have the right to use the name Sweetie Pie.
I think I wasn't really listening. I mean, I heard what he said, but it just didn't seem real.
I'm like, Mom, I asked her, I said, Mom, I have not earned the right to use the name Sweetie Pie. After all this stuff, I ain't earned that right.
And yeah, I think that's a very good point, because I don't think that we would be where we are as a company today if you hadn't have kept pushing forward.
Well, I look at it, man. We all got a lot of time in this Sweetie Pie thing, man. You know, And then for me, I have to go to court and have a judge decide if I've earned the right or I got the right to use the name Sweetie Pies.
I've always thought, and I think this is where everybody else comes from, what's his is hers and what's hers is his. So why wouldn't he use the name?
My question is, if Linda tried to open a restaurant, would she sue her? Or if Jan tried to open a restaurant, would she sue her?
Robbie is like the big bad wolf. She huffs and she puffs, but nobody really ever expects for her to actually blow the house down.
I'm so upset with this situation, man. I ain't want to talk about, man, because, man, I've been going hard at this, man, for years.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that you're doing stuff outside the box. She can't technically keep her hand on it is what scares her.
If she don't want me to keep on open Sweetie Pies, all right, let me know that. You ain't got to sue me, man. On a personal level, yeah, I'm worried. I'm upset. I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm sad, all the above, because I'm getting sued by my mama. On a business level, ain't nothing to worry about. Everybody's still going to get paid. I'm still going to keep everybody working. I'm going to keep my restaurants running. Now, the question is, are they going to be called Sweetie Pies or not? What you think, man?
To be quite honest, Tim, I mean, I understand that's something that's very big as far as you and Robbie go. Obviously, it's become a lawsuit about it. But that's not my biggest concern with all of this. My biggest concern is making sure that us as a family remain a family. And I felt for a while that that's changing. I felt for a while that we aren't the family that we used to be. As far as sticking together on different things, holidays ain't the same no more. So,
man, Michelle just called me, man. She said everybody's worried about this lawsuit thing. I mean, all the workers coming left and right, wondering if all the TJs is gonna be shut down. If Lindbergh, Natural Breeze, the one out here.
Is it a possibility? I mean, can the restaurants get shut down while the lawsuit is in motion, or is this something that we don't have to worry about right now?
I mean, that's the thing. It's something we don't have to worry about right now, man. But people don't understand this lawsuit can go on for 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Right. So what's your plan of action?
I feel like I need to go back to St. Louis and talk to them. I mean, I can talk to the ones who could wear here with them, but no matter what, if it's Sweetie Pies or if it's Sweet Joe's, I'm going to keep on opening these restaurants. I'm going to stay in business. If you think about it, man, there is not one African-American or soul food franchise. I think it can be done, and I think we were on the path to doing it. For me, it's just forward progress, I just need to know if my forward progress is going to be with Sweetie Pies and not with Sweetie Pies. A lawsuit ain't going to stop me.
All right, everybody. So as you see, she wanted him to ask for permission, which by right, he does need to ask for permission if indeed she's the sole proprietor and it's in her name only. So what was he making working for her? The son. If he wanted to open up his own restaurants, then that's what he should have done. I think people still would have patronized, knowing he's the son of this woman who had the original restaurant. I think people still would have patronized anyway. It shows you the dynamics that these people were not as close. So everything you're seeing on the screen was just a facade. Like many things you see on reality TV, everything isn't as it seems. And you hear this one relative speaking. He referred to Miss Robbie as his aunt. That they weren't like they used to be. Family holidays weren't the same. So maybe money was the root to their issues. And they always say, old saying, money is the root to all evil. Sometimes. Depends on the characters involved. Maybe money changed a lot of these people. Maybe she was scared of him opening restaurants. She was afraid of him opening restaurants outside her jurisdiction where she couldn't see and manage everything. Because if I can't see it, I don't know what's actually going on. And I don't want my name on something that I can't put my hand on readily. And I get that. Because when you start opening up businesses, your feet and hands can't be in all those different places. So when you start opening up places that's out of state, you can't see what's going on. You don't know what they're doing. You can get sued. Somebody fall in a restaurant or somebody stealing out the pot. You're not there. You don't know because you're not there. So I can understand that. Maybe she only wanted places just nearby where she could maintain steady ship of everything going on. Then you also have to remember this was a very older person. So opening up more chains out of state means more things to be concerned with, more hassles, More money, yes, but we also know with more money brings more problems. Thank you all so much for joining me. All right, so we go back in time, him talking about being sued by his mother, how he felt. Let's talk about Andre's brush with death. Were there signs all along that he was not going to live long? Had he seen signs that possibly things weren't working out in his favor? Did he get a premonition he was going to die early? This is Conversation on the TV show. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Lil Charles and Andre talking. So I believe this Charles is the one that was speaking earlier in the earlier audio I just played.
So where are you coming from? The hospital. Where are you at the hospital for? You got into a car wreck? No. When Andre tells me he's been in the car accident, the first thing that runs through my mind is, I really hope you weren't driving. Because I taught you how to drive. And if you crash the car while driving, that's going to reflect on me. I was driving. Everybody okay?
One of my friends, man, his whole family came up there and they was all crying and stuff.
Crying? What happened?
The pole he hit, he was laying on that window, the side that he hit. He was just like all this and messed up. Missing his teeth, like this side of his teeth and all that. And his face, all that was just. And the ambulance came, took to the hospital, checked us up. I had a whole bunch of glass in my head and all that. Side window, the back window was out. My shirt had all blood on it from him.
Wow. So you didn't get knocked out either?
No.
How you hit the pole? If his back windows were knocked out, was he going backwards?
No, he was turning, and somehow he got up here, but he swerved off. It hit like the back window.
The back window hit the pole?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the best thing is that you're okay, so that's good. Be careful, Andre. Be careful you ride with, because I mean, everybody got friends that do something. I got friends that do something. I'm not saying that the people in the car are bad influences. I mean, I've had accidents, so I can't assume. But I just want him to make sure that he's hanging out with the right people. Just be careful. Let me go back up there and help out right Linda.
Waiter.
I said help out Linda. I'm a cashier today.
All
right.
Very interesting information. Car wreck with a friend, Andre. It says, after being in a bad car crash that has injured, oh Lordy, a close friend, a concerned Andre, confides in Charles about the accident. As Charles has been in a few car crashes himself, he understanding the situation, but still cautions Andre to try to surround himself with responsible friends. Well, he did kind of come in hard on him, like, well, it's a bad reflection of me because I taught you how to drive. But anyway, that's just a clip from the show. I'm taking you all back to this family dynamic. Another clip. Tim initiates Andre into the family business. Imagine that. Yet he's the one that orchestrates the death of his own nephew. You can't make this stuff up.
Let's say at least $4,000 a week. That's a lot of money. $4,000 is a lot of damn money, man.
A week, yeah.
Yeah. What's 4 times 4? 8.
They were going to take Andre to the restaurant depot. Recently, Andre told Mom he's interested in getting into the family business for real. So Mom asked me to take Andre along with me on my weekly supply run to see if he's really serious or not.
You got on leather pants. I just noticed that, man.
Not one onion, the whole bag.
You all right? Yeah, I'm good. You sure?
Yeah.
Let's play football, man. Come on. What is it? Right there. Oh, man, I am creasing up my shoes.
Sweetie Pies is like a big fraternity. So right now, Andre's getting hazed.
The pepper is right there.
Them things are there? These things?
Yep.
That's one.
Okay, Andre.
Huh?
This is whole pepper. We use
What that
fresh
is?
pepper.
In the beginning, Andre thought this was going to be a piece of cake. I'm trying to break Andre into the business, literally.
What we getting now?
Nothing, man. Just a couple more things. We almost done, man. How you feeling so far?
Right. I'm feeling good about it.
I'm glad you're coming to help me, bro. I know I give you a hard time sometimes, but I want the best for you. How old are you?
18.
18, man. You know where I was at when I was 18?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. This work is easy compared to the work they got you doing in there.
When I was Andre's age, I was in prison. So I want him to recognize and make the most of the opportunities he has.
All right? Mm-hmm. So I think you need to take advantage of the situation right now, man, and make the best of it.
Overall, for first day, I say Andre did pretty good. I mean, we did give him an extra hard time, but he'll be ready for the next time.
There's a lot of stuff we do all the time you have no clue about, bro. And our whole family depends on this restaurant, man. That's what I want you to realize.
So all that sweet talking. At what point did Tim get angst about his nephew? Was he jealous of him in the beginning when the boy came to stay, saw something in him? You also hear him admit that he'd been to prison at the age where this young guy was at that time, 18. It states he went to prison for robbery. So he knows how to steal. It's a very interesting dynamic. He tells him, I want the best for you, but you're also the one that took out several policies on this man to have him murdered. And I brought you commentary that says 2 years beforehand. So it's pretty deep. So was this affection he showed him on the TV show fake? Did he really not like the kid in the beginning initially, or only when he thought he stole from his mother? What's the truth pertaining to the relationship between Tim and Andre? When did the hate start? Thank you for joining me. Trying to bring you all these things pertaining to this. Let's go back in time to what customers thought of Tim when he first got arrested. Thank you for joining me. KSDK is the source. The original business in the Grove neighborhood on Manchester closed 4 years ago. However, Robbie Montgomery's upper crust location in Grand Center is still a popular place.
TV reality star continues to be a hot topic online and throughout the area. Customers of the St. Louis-based restaurant tell Robert Townsend they are stunned to hear the owner's son and 2 other suspects are all charged in a murder for hire plot.
For years, James Tim Norman worked alongside his mom, Robbie Montgomery, at her Sweetie Pies restaurant in St. Louis. The original business in the Grove neighborhood closed 4 years ago, but Montgomery's upper crust location in Grand Center is still a popular place.
It was a great experience. I love the food, love Miss Robbie.
Montgomery's successful restaurant was the center of a hit reality TV show on the Oprah Winfrey Network for 7 seasons. Tim Norman was a regular star. He later moved to Jackson, Mississippi, and opened his own Sweetie Pies. But now,
To just hear that, it's sad. It's just a tragedy.
St. Charles resident Shalonda Stribling and other longtime Sweetie Pies customers are reeling after hearing Norman is charged in a murder for hire plot that left his 21-year-old nephew, Andre Montgomery Jr., shot and killed in North St. Louis 4 years ago.
It's a tragic situation for everyone involved.
My heart goes out to Miss Robbie.
Authorities say in 2014, Tim Norman fraudulently obtained a $450,000 life insurance policy on his nephew. on which Norman was the sole beneficiary. Investigators say 2 years later, Norman conspired with this Memphis woman to use a cell phone to commit the murder-for-hire scheme. Thursday, a grand jury indicted Norman and insurance agent Wael Yagnam, each with one count of conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud. Yagnam is a former record producer for rapper St. Louis native Nelly.
I think that we should let the investigation take place. I am praying for the entire family.
Robert Townsend, 5 on your side.
Norman remains in jail in Mississippi right now. We don't know when he will be extradited back to St. Louis.
That's older content, everybody in the chat listening. Thank you all so much for your time. KSDK News 5 is the source of that. Those were personal testimonies pertaining to prayers for the restaurant, the people. You also heard that he opened up his own restaurant in the name of Sweetie Pies in Mississippi. I wonder if he had, at that time, got permission to do that, because we know that the mother tried suing him for about $100 million for opening up places without her consent of the said establishments. See, a lot of people don't like to believe bad in people. I guess a lot of people, we all can be hypocrites to some degree pertaining to the crimes that people commit that we know of. Even ourselves doing wrong. You pray for what? That they get along? It's not true. The rumor isn't true. Well, it's not really anything to sugarcoat. A policy is just that. It's a policy. You had to walk into an office, gave the said information to an agent. You don't need a person's permission to get a policy in his or her name, whether it be a relative, friend, child, whomever. They draw it up, you pay the money, and that's that. And every month you pay the deductible, and that's how it goes. The premium, excuse me. That's how it goes. And that's the sad thing about insurance. You can take an insurance policy out on anybody. Get their personal information. Wait to see if it can go through the agency, and then boom, voila, there's your policy. And that's why people murder people. Taking policies out on them. Friends, wives, ex-wives, husbands, all that. Boyfriend, girlfriend, children. People are vicious out here because you really don't know people. Because we really don't know if that boy murdered. If Andre robbed the grandmother and this led Tim to have this vengeance against him to get this stripper and this guy to kill him. Could have been just, he's a greedy person. He's thirsty. He's hungry. He wants money. He wants fame. He wants status. So he's that type of person. By all means necessary, I'm going to get paid. And you have people out here like that. They don't give a damn about you being related to them. And then, too, the boy may have appeared wayward to him. He may see or saw that he ain't trying to do nothing with his life. Nobody's going to miss him. Hell yeah, I'm going to take a policy out on him. Who knows? Because in the end, the reasoning doesn't matter. It's wrong. It wasn't your job to put this boy to death. He hadn't done anything to you directly. And we get it. It's nothing wrong with being angry if somebody robbed your mom, robbed your sister. But is it right for you to go out here and kill them? And we know people do it all the time. People get their houses held up, gunpoint, carjack, all type of things. And then somebody comes back and retaliates. That's what's going on in the streets right now. Retaliation. You did this to me. You did this to my mom. You did this to my brother. You killed my brother. You killed my sister. Now we're going to send a henchman to come do the same to you. You robbed somebody. You clipped somebody. You crooked dice game, card game. It's all the same. Street vengeance for street drama. That's why you keep your hands to yourself. Don't take things that don't belong to you. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Don't mess with people. Stay out of their lanes. Don't gossip about them. Don't spread untruths about them. See, you get killed over words. Get killed over, you looked at me funny, wrong, whatever. You said something out of the way to my mom or my sister. It's the street. The street is vicious. And there's people that live by that street mentality. Eye for an eye. Or I'm going to get you before you get me. I'm in it to win by all means necessary. I'm going to do what I have to do to get my money, to get paid. Killing you, knocking you off, faking policies. I still believe that possibly that son had something to do with his own mother's robbery of her house because only 2 other people had the code beside Miss Robbie. So like I said, did Tim conspire with this kid to rob the grandmother? Just wondering. All right, everybody. That's sad information from back in the day pertaining to bystanders upset over the situation. Some are probably still supporting him after all this. Let's go to what is going to be really shocking, what I'm about to play to you. This is after Andre's death. Miss Robbie and Tim go to the site where he was killed. Put that on paper. This is bad. They go to the old neighborhood where Andre lost his life. This is Robbie, Miss Robbie, and her diabolical son, Tim Norman. Thank you for joining me.
I drove my mom through the park to the spot where Andre lost his life. I had not been there yet. I don't think Mom had been there either. You know, we're still in the same street, basically, as my grandmother's house, Natural Bridge. So you can see Grandma's house right here.
Natural Bridge is the main street that goes from one end of the city to the next. Everything happens on Natural Bridge. All the crime, all the fast racing. This is it.
Yes, sir.
They say he came out and used the phone. So they had to shoot him right here on this porch.
We've lost a lot of family members here on this street. Andre, as of late. And then before Andre, my father. And in between that was Linda's son, Monique's brother, Aaron, who was like my brother. And it's all on this one street. A few blocks from each other. Right across from Grandma's house.
Yeah, that's the sad thing about it.
Since Andre's passing, I haven't gone through this part of the city. And really, I've been avoiding it.
I mean, it's like all up and down the street.
Yeah.
We must stop killing, but there's just signs. Oh, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm getting sick to my stomach just seeing this place.
We get back in the car, I take it 2 lights down the street. Just 2 lights to the spot where my dad got killed.
Somebody walked up right beside him and put the gun right to his head, right there, and killed him in the car. This is the first time I've been here since your dad got killed. I ain't never even came back here.
My mom and dad were crazy in love with each other. They were supposed to get married. She was only 2 months pregnant with me when my dad got killed. So when I drive past the spot, I wonder, how would my life have been different if my father hadn't stopped to get a sandwich that day? Some old guys told me that the person that killed my dad was actually sitting inside the car with my dad.
He might have, because he was right there. I looked behind his ear, because when they told me where he was shot at.
You wouldn't identify his body too?
And Aaron's body too. I went with them and identified.
Aaron got killed a few blocks up the street.
Yep. Okay, well, all these memories.
It hasn't been good for our family, as far as the men are concerned. I mean, you look at it, me and Charles and now TJ, we always left.
I'm kind of glad you gone, for your own safety.
I just wish y'all would come with me and Charles out there.
We go up about 3 more blocks, and that's where my nephew Aaron lost his life. Yeah, I think that is right in here somewhere.
Yeah. It's like my second or first year in prison. And I got a message when I got back to my cell, and they said, call home. I've been out playing basketball, and I got back, and they told me to call home. And I got on the payphone, called Mom, and then that's when you called me, you said, Aaron, I thought you were going to tell me Aaron got
Thought he's going to start crying.
But she said, no, he's dead. And I never expected that. I didn't. I mean, I was my brother. He was my cousin, but really, he was my brother. That was like one of the hardest moments for me being in prison, because I was away. And I wondered, if I had been there,
you could have been dead too.
Guilty for being in jail, not being there with him. And you told me he was dead.
Yeah, him and his friend.
They crushed me.
Killed both of them together right here. The young men today, they're just killing each other. My concern is, are we going to have another generation? Because these kids are killing each other before they have kids. Andre, my grandson, he was the last Montgomery.
I wish you'd reconsider coming out to California with me. Or if you don't like California, pick a city and I go open a restaurant there, I just wish we can all be together. it's something inside me feel like I have to take the wheel to talk to my mom and to maybe moving out of California to guide everybody out of this situation.
I'm not going to say no. I will consider, but I could come visit. I love St. Louis, even though all this stuff is happening. I know I can't do nothing about it. Just pray for strength.
Hi, YouTubers.
All right, very interesting information. Here he is, taking his mother from place to place where Andre died, his father died, and his cousin, who he thought of as a brother, he was incarcerated at the time that his cousin was murdered on this street, Natural Bridge. Well, one could say it's a natural bridge, all right. It's a natural bridge to death, to your demise. But don't you find it interesting? He's crying and talking about his cousin who was murdered, but yet you're the same person that's walking the death walk to all these deaths that occurred, and you're the orchestrator of Andre's death on this Natural Bridge street. Tim, you're a piece of work. You lost your father to gun violence, possibly a friend or acquaintance killed him point blank in a car. And then you have the nerve years later to walk your mother on that same street where you orchestrated the death, murder, hired hit of your own damn nephew, and then keep parking to every damn spot on the street where your daddy got murdered and then your cousin. And then have the nerve to sit up here and cry on a live interview of this reality show as if you got some damn feeling. But you know, they have said that about narcissists. They do weep for themselves. They weep when it's pertaining to them. So you weeping for this cousin, but you didn't weep in talking about where Andre got killed. Hell no, because you're the one that got him killed. So hell no, you ain't gonna weep for him because you feel vindicated in why you had him killed and then got insurance policies taken out on your own nephew. And then he's talking about the mother. Hey, come out here and move with me, blah, blah, blah. She don't want to leave because she's used to that place. She's old. A lot of older people are like that. They're not trying to move on. They know it's probably not the best place to be, crime-wise, weather, but it's what she's used to. And all along, she's sitting here riding with the killer of her own damn grandson. And possibly he killed him because he's one of the last to carry the name, the heritage. So, hey, we're going to knock off anybody that can be entitled to receive anything when Miss Robbie passes away. How about that? Didn't want that boy to get nothing. They want him to be left to be put in a will. See, you don't ever know what's going on in the minds of a human being. You're thinking it's one thing, but possibly it's various reasons why he had a hit put out on his nephew. Thank you for joining me this Everyday Shenanigans. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Big Angie, 129 Cash App, all stickers, chat to welcome during this live. Thank you so much. They want to play you one more video. Then if you want to come up and give your opinion pertaining to this debacle, this guilty verdict of Mr. Tim, please do so. The last audio I'm going to play is pertaining to the family holding an emotional vigil in the memory of Andre. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, mind you, this is a few years ago when he was murdered. And the show is no longer on the OWN network. And Mr. Tim is currently incarcerated.
Montgomery. I want to start off by just acknowledging his family, Miss Michelle Riggs, Darren, his brother, and Miss Robbie Montgomery, his grandmother. I want to say to you, Namaste, which means our light bows to your light. And with that, I'm going to introduce Miss Marlene Davis. Let's have a hand for Miss Marlene Davis.
Dre was a very special young man. He was so gentle, although he wanted to portray something different. I just think about how much life he could have lived, how good he could have been. I didn't know anybody got shot when I was growing up. I didn't know not one single person. So we gotta do something different. You can't have one foot in the game and one foot over here pretending that you're okay. If you don't come all the way out the game is gonna get you.
We gotta get tired. The blood of Dre
has to make us tired. The tears of his grandmother to see her grandson has to make us tired. To see the killing in our city, 3 and 4 day, it's got to make us tired. Touch your neighbor, say we got to get tired. And when we get tired, we will see real change.
I really miss my grandson, but now we have to focus on finding the guy that killed Andre.
You get tired.
How about that? Focus on the killer. Interesting.
We are killing each other, and we need to stop. We need to start loving and stop killing, because how many of these are we going to have? I mean, how many marches are we going to do? How many visuals are we going to have? We need to love one another.
On behalf of my family here in St. Louis and also in Texas, I'd like to thank you all for your support and outpouring of love and prayers. Our family hurts every day. There's no day that doesn't go by that we don't think about Andre. Pain is still there, and it won't go away until we have closure. We all have an Andre whose life has been taken way too early. And for what? He wasn't a gangster. He wasn't no thief. He wasn't violent. He was a young man still trying to find his way with a good heart. There are people out there that know what happened, who did this to Andre. We all know about the street code. The snitches get stitches. We need to get in that mindset and realize that we're killing ourselves for no reason. Help the detectives help us get closure. So that way when we say rest in peace, Andre, he can finally rest in peace. Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out.
Being in LA, I was so used to dealing with my morning on my own that it just hurt that much more when I was in the room with everybody else. I wasn't used to seeing everybody else's emotions. And at that point, I needed to get out of the room.
Andre is like one of the beats in my heart, and it's gone. It's gone, and we can't get him back. We tried to give him a better life, and he lost his life here. But we could have closure if somebody would tell who did this to Andre. They set him up. It was somebody he knew because he got a phone call, and he went outside, and when he got outside, they shot him. He wouldn't have gone outside for a stranger. So we pray every night for the police to find the people that did this to Andre. So I want to thank you all for coming out and ask that you all keep us in your prayers, and especially Andre's family that's here from Texas that came up to this, and pray that they go back home safe, and pray for closure for our family for this. Thank you all. Thank you.
Once we had gotten through the program, it was a relief. I can get emotional thinking about the people who turned out for us. I thought we did a beautiful job.
Everybody that spoke had a powerful message. I'm hoping that the community listened, and especially the Black men, so we can pull together, uplift each other, support each other, and not kill each other.
All right, everybody. That's my last audio pertaining to this crazy nonsense. Don't you find it strange that all these people are sitting here listening to various people speak about Andre, pastors, whomever, people in the community, and the killer wasn't there? They're asking about the killer, Miss Robbie, blah, 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 but the killer is her own son. But the killer isn't there. How do you think those people felt when they found out that Tim was the orchestrator? The fact that he moved out there from Texas to better his life, but to only die from his own family member in a new city. Just think about what I'm saying now. Because this happens a lot here in this country. People move from their area that's riddled with crime, inner city crime. But then they go somewhere else and get murdered shortly after moving to the next place. Don't you find that interesting? That happens with a lot of young black men. They leave Detroit, Chicago, New York, LA, California, wherever, come up to another city, town to only die shortly afterwards. He left Texas to die by the hands of his own uncle. Miss Robbie, how do you live with yourself? Because you're still supporting Tim. And all this BS you spilled out on this TV show at this vigil for him and going up and down that damn street with your son, riding to all the places where your husband died, where Andre died, and where the cousin died. But yet now, currently, 2022, you're supporting your son who murdered your own damn grandson. And the fact you sat up here in this vigil talking about you miss him, he was your heartbeat, but you're aiding your own blood. Yeah, I know that. I know you gave birth to that spawn, but that spawn also, he had robbed some people before too, right? That's why he did 10 or so years in prison. And yet he came out and didn't redeem himself. He ends up ordering the murder of his own damn family member. You spawned that demon because maybe perhaps, Miss Robbie, you're not really a shining star. You're not a Christian woman. You don't walk by faith yourself. Perhaps you are diabolical as well. The bloodline ran through to your son. And the fact that your husband got murdered, I don't think they ever found out who killed him. I don't know for sure. Why would that man kill your husband? Point blank. Somebody that knew him. Don't you find the parallels interesting? Your husband was murdered by somebody that knew him. He obviously died. I don't know the age, but this man's older, probably near my age. So he was a child when his father was murdered. Years later, your son goes to prison for robbery. Then he orchestrates the hit on his own damn nephew. Now he's currently locked up. You know, there's a part of the Bible that talks about sins of the father, and that is generational curses. And that perhaps you can have a child that doesn't commit any crimes against man to his knowledge, but he may get the brunt of the violence. He may end up a victim of crime. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that has happened, and I've seen that happen here recently. You murdered somebody, and then you wake up one day, and now your child has been murdered. Perhaps your child didn't do anything to anybody out here, but somebody killed them, either on purpose or by mistake. Is it possibly generational curse? Karma came home. You stole a life many years ago, so now the universe takes your child. Stay woke, everybody. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. How did those people feel that sat in that vigil feel now, knowing that Mr. Tim has been found guilty of murdering his own nephew? How did they feel then? Thinking this young boy was trying to better himself. You heard the one lady say, you can't have one foot over here and another foot in the street. But that happens with young people when they're trying to find themselves. They're trying to be a part of something, belong to something. Perhaps he was wayward where he came from, so it was easily to still be wayward where he was. Was he getting into trouble where he was out there in Missouri? I don't know. Because I heard the lady say, you know, when you're trying to be something, you're not. So what was he trying to be? A thug? Wanted to be hard? And I did get information that he had stuff posted to his social media pages with guns, this and that. That's why he was let go from the TV show, from the OWN network, because that was not a good image. And I get that. And they had every right to tell you, hey, you can't be a part of the show. So naturally, he can't work in a restaurant because the restaurant is a part of the show. So why was he still wanting to be a part of a hard life, hard image? DD&D robbed Miss Robbie, his grandmother. Only 3 people had a code to the house, allegedly. Did Tim set up the robbery of his own mother, stealing her goods, money, jewelry? Or did he and Andre orchestrate this robbery of Miss Robbie? And now that your son's been found guilty, Miss Robbie, are you still supporting him? You still aiding this murderer? Because now you're an older person and you've got to leave your worldly goods to somebody. So do you have any other children to leave your goods to? Are you on speaking terms with Mr. Andre's mother? Other family members? You heard in this earlier part of this live, his sister spoke to the news, and she doesn't have anything nice to say pertaining to Miss Robbie. And she acknowledged that he called her to tell her, hey, I didn't rob your house. It wasn't me. It was Tim. Did she ever consider that Tim robbed her? She had to. She knew he had to code to her house. If you have ADT or alarm system, you know that somebody bypassed the alarm system because they had to be able to get in your house. And if it shows that nobody broke in through a window, a door, kicked in a door, then that means they had access to your house. So that left either you lying about the stuff stolen, orchestrated by yourself, your son did it, or your grandson, Andre. What's the truth? Thank you for joining me. Just a bunch of BS. Just a bunch of just a bunch of BS. It's hard to even fathom this in a conversation. People that's supposed to be living productive lives involved in murder. But that happens because you don't know people. And I'm sure a lot of people are very disappointed when they found out that he was indicted for murder. Some probably believed he did it. Some probably didn't. But I think you should have common sense enough to know you can't make up insurance policies. Once they're drawn up by allegedly a legal agent. So you, the person who is the beneficiary on that information, you are the one that took the information to the agent. That's that. If you'd like to join us, like to come up, give your opinion pertaining to the guilty verdict of Tim Norman, please hit the link. Thank you so much for joining me. There's only a few of you in the audience viewing. That's okay. It's a slow roll here this Saturday. But I thank you all for joining me and letting me play out this information. It was a bit winded because I wanted to bring you all the commentary I could find relevant to the story and possibly the motive for why he would have his, why Tim would kill his own relative, his nephew. So I had to bring you that information, play a little bit of audio of all the people that testified in court that led to this guilty verdict. FBI, insurance agents, the stripper, who looks very young in a mugshot. She was paid $10,000. The killer shooter was paid $5,000, which I found that very strange as well. You paid the person that lured him more than you would pay the shooter. Very interesting. And they pled guilty. So that's why I think it's odd that this man would originally plead not guilty, but yet in the end, your co-conspirators pled guilty. Because obviously the state brought forth information and verification that they were involved in this setup. You should know there's data, text messaging, messenger, all the ways you all communicated with one another. You didn't think any of that would come out in court. You should know damn well the state was going to do their job to bring forth that information and show all the times you all talk back and forth, showing the minutes on the data of phone conversations by regular phone. Come on now, Tim. You can't be this slow. You can't be this slow. But that's sad information, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I think this is sad. A young man who could have led a good life had he chose the right path. Maybe somewhere he was trying. I don't know because I don't know him personally. Maybe he got in trouble where he was, and that was the purpose of him going out here was to better himself, work at this restaurant with his grandmother and family. Maybe he still was straddling the fence, trying to portray himself as a hardened individual. But as you see, it doesn't work. And see, sometimes you can claim those things into existence. You're posting social media garbage with guns and heavy artillery. You're claiming that. So that's the thing people don't understand about your conversations. That's in the scripture. If you believe in the Bible, it's in Psalms. Speak it and it shall be so. So when you're out here posting pictures of guns, artillery, throwing up birds, talking crazy, threatening people, you don't think that karma is not going to knock at your door one day? Come on now. You have to think about everything you do, where you go, where you speak, who you talk to, who you hang around, who you fraternize with, the things you post on social media. All that can come back. Sometimes we get mad. We post things about people, say things about people, or hint about a certain person. Well, people might know who you're talking about, even if you don't drop their name. But God knows if you're showing violence and violent things such as heavy artillery, why are you showing guns? Don't you find it interesting? He's showing himself with guns and he dies by a gun. He moves to this place to get a better way of living, but dies by the hand of his own damn uncle because he believed he robbed his mother, Miss Robbie, if that's even true. But let's talk about Tim. Perhaps Tim, which I think we already know what I'm about to say is the truth. He never changed his ways. That young person that robbed whomever many moons ago and he did so many years in prison, he still had the same mentality when he got out. What he did, he put on sheep's clothing, walking around pretending to be a changed man. If he was a changed man, he wouldn't have even thought about orchestrating insurance policies against his nephew, even if he believed that this man robbed his mother. What he was supposed to do was turn the other cheek and tell him, well, look, this is what we've decided to do, me and mother. We've decided that we will no longer support you. You are not allowed to work in this restaurant, come back, whatever, which we know he did flee shortly after the robbery, from my understanding. So he left, in which, yes, that would make a person assume you had something to do with it. They say he had purchased new clothes and I guess put all that on social media. But then the relative said that he would have been more flashy. I played you that audio earlier where one of the relatives was talking to the news about the guilty verdict this week and said, oh no, he would have been way flashy. So who are these people that are saying they saw him with new clothes and things? Because you're getting two conflicting informations about his appearance after the robbery of Miss Robbie's house. Was he flashing money? Social media, he says, yes, it was the girlfriend's money. One person said he had new clothes and this and that. But then other relatives said on the news this week, well, no, he would have gone all out. He would have been showboating with friends, so on and so forth. Some will probably say it won't even matter if he robbed Miss Robbie or not. It's the past. Well, everything is determined by your interpretation. Is that the reason this man held vengeance in his heart against his own nephew? He thought he robbed his mother. He wanted vengeance against him. So he started plotting. Okay, you take from my mother, I'm going to take from you. I'm going to pay on these insurance policies, put enough money into them, and then orchestrate and pay somebody to kill you. That's my payback for you robbing my mother. But yet we learned that he didn't have a good relationship with Miss Robbie because he opened up franchises under the name without her permission and authorization. So that means you didn't value your mother or respect your mother to talk to her about your endeavors and broadening the business, going outside of the general area. Wouldn't that make sense to talk to her? Hey, I want to use this name, blah, blah, blah. And that's the whole thing. What paperwork was he on pertaining to her worldly goods and estate? Was she going to leave everything to him? I mean, I won't doubt that she would if she didn't have anybody else to leave her business to. The Sweetie Pie's franchise, all her holdings. He would be the appropriate person to leave him to if indeed she trusted him and she wanted him to have her monies, estate. Somebody says wants fast money, don't want to work for it, doesn't care about anyone else's feelings. Guess he's a narcissist, feeling sorry for his mom. He's a user. Well, Fonda, I don't know. I don't feel sorry for Miss Robbie. That's my personal opinion. Because she supported him. I believe she spawned this monster. See, this is the one thing you always got to remember. There's a dynamic between the two that ain't so kosher. Because if their relationship was so great, Tim and Robbie He would have never went and opened up businesses without her permission. He had to know she was going to find out because people talk. And as so long as that name's affiliated with that business that was in St. Louis, it was only going to be a matter of time Miss Robbie was going to find out there are other businesses in other cities with her name on it. So how are you going to explain that? She knows, hey, she didn't go to California, New York to open up a Sweetie Pies. Then that means you're up under me. You went and did that. So their relationship wasn't that great. And the fact that she sued him, attempted to sue him, I don't even know what was the end result to that. But it shows you there was really no respect between Tim, Norman, and Miss Robbie. Because perhaps she coddled her son growing up, which led to him being this robber turned alleged redeemed person to then orchestrate a hit on his own nephew and insurance policies to collect money. Tim was a fraud. But see, one thing people don't seem to understand about flaws in human beings, a lot of the flaws we have come from the people that spawned us. And a lot of people won't admit they're part of the problem why their children turn out wayward. Yes, you're supposed to change your life or act accordingly at a certain age, but that doesn't mean anything. Founder, I don't think you're listening to a word I'm saying up here. It doesn't matter if you need help. If you think that your son is a problem person and it's not going to do right by you, you can't use it as an excuse. Because at some point he broke her trust when he opened up the other establishments. And so how is he going to help her with a restaurant if he's in other cities opening up other businesses? Come on now. He can't be in two places at the same time. That's the reason why they believe she didn't want any other restaurants, any other franchises open, because she knew she wouldn't be able to be in all those places orchestrating the daily run of those businesses. See, you have to be in the know of running a business. It's easy to open a store over here today in this city, but that doesn't mean I have the fortitude to want to try to run 3 more businesses in Texas, New York, California. Because you got to have your eye and your mindset in that place. And perhaps she knew I'm an older person. I'm getting old. I could become feeble one day. I'm not going to have the fortitude to try to run businesses in outside states. And by right, he didn't have any business opening those places. That's the point I'm making. I don't think there was any trust. That's obvious. And even now, she's supporting him. I brought content earlier in this live where she was 3 months ago did an interview where she's supporting her son. And I just can't understand how in the world you can speak years beforehand when Andre was murdered. You're rallying, trying to figure out who the killer is. You're saying it in this audio I've played. We just need to find the killer. We just need to find the killer. You're talking about the signs that were posted in the grass right at the place where he was killed. That what are these signs going to do? The violence has to stop. There won't be a new generation coming up if you're killing everybody. Yeah, true. But the point is you're standing there with the killer. So it sounds crazy. You're standing there on the street where your grandson was murdered with the killer. And you're talking in a public forum at the vigil for him. We got to find the killer. We got to find the killer. And your son is the damn killer. And yet, years later, you're still supporting him. Whether you gave birth to him or not, it doesn't matter. At some point, you have to say what's right and what is wrong. Because what if somebody had killed her son years ago when he robbed somebody? Because you got to remember, Tim's done the same thing that they're accusing Andre of doing. Stay woke. Y'all missed that, didn't you? Tim has committed robbery, which led him to go to prison. Now, how about somebody had went and handled him and killed him? Then Miss Robbie would be sick saying, oh, somebody killed my baby. Somebody killed my son. she wouldn't have liked had somebody stole Tim's life when he robbed somebody. So how was it right for him to go kill this young man who's his own relative for allegedly burglarizing Miss Robbie's home? Now you see how karma comes back around full circle. That people don't have empathy for other people. So long as it's not affecting them directly or who they want to favor, the null and void. So that leads me to say what I'm saying in this commentary. Miss Robbie is a hypocrite. Because her child's life didn't get stolen when he went out here and robbed somebody. They didn't send in the henchmen to kill him, murder him. Her son was spared and he robbed somebody. He did time in prison. So how was it right for your son to go out here and kill his own damn nephew? And you're supporting him knowing he's done the same thing that you all are accusing Andre of doing. See, this is bad. This is the God complex I talk about. True narcissism at best. So long as it don't happen to Joe and Pookie and Ray Ray and I favor them, hell, I don't care about what they did. I don't care. I don't care. And that's what's wrong with the world right now. That's why we have the problems we have, is that people aid who they want in wrongdoing. Yeah, I'm going to aid my son, my child. I know they did wrong. I know they killed somebody. I know they robbed somebody. I know they stuck up people, carjacked them. I'm going to support them anyway. But then you'll be the first one hooping and hollering and falling out on the damn floor. Somebody kills your child because they robbed somebody, stole from them. You didn't have to kill him. You didn't have to kill him. See, this happens every day, especially in urban America. Your child goes out here and commits all these damn crimes. You favor them, support them. Then, God forbid, they take a whole life. You still favor them, support them. But nobody better not kill your damn spawn. How's that fair? How is that fair? Exactly, she could have been next. That's a very valid point. Because like I said, could it be he knocked that boy off for a reason not about theft, but he was the last lineage up under him that was a man? Because in the end, had something happened to Tim, he passed away, got sick, Miss Robbie naturally has to be able to leave her effects to somebody. And I don't know if she had everything written in a will, because a lot of people will not write a will out for some crazy reason. And they know they're old and they know they can get sick, they know they can get dementia, but they won't write a will. He knew that. That is the last male lineage. Could have been that reason. I don't want this boy getting too close to my mother. I see a bond going on between these two. I gotta put a stop to this. So who's to say he didn't say, I gotta put a wedge between the two, set this boy up, rob the house. Nobody has a code but me, him, and her. She ain't gonna think her own son robbed her. At least Andre. Everybody stay woke. You see, a diabolical mind is always in rotation. That's the thing people don't understand about a con artist, about a narcissist. They don't sleep. Their mind is always on the hustle, always on the next manipulation, the next con, the next bamboozlement. Who can I get next? Pull into my phone. Oh, Andre. They're getting too close. Too much conversation going on between my mom and him. She likes him. She favors him. Hell, maybe she likes him more than me. I got to put a stop to this. This can't go on. So you don't know because we don't know him. But what we do know of him is that he's sick. Because like I said, people are robbed every day. People steal from people every day. People don't put hits out on them. People go to court for stealing people, lawnmowers, cars, this and that. You get the government name, you find out where to live. People don't go hire people to go kill him. Hey, Pookie didn't show up to court. What happened? He's murdered. What happened? Now, detectives have to figure out who killed him. If he's in the street doing wrong, could be numerous people that could be the culprit. But the point of this story is the obvious. Is that you don't know people. You can't put faith in man. That's also in the scripture. He will surely disappoint you. Amen. So many people put their faith in this Mr. Tim Norman, thinking he was a great guy, redeemed himself from going to prison. But he hadn't redeemed himself because his mindset was still in the street. Whenever you decide to orchestrate the murder and take out insurance policies on another human being, you are diabolical. Point damn blank. There is no reasoning to be orchestrating somebody's murder years in advance, taking out policies on them, going back to back to get the policy until it folds and goes through. That means you're sick because you're showing I'm not even going to give up until I get what I want. And that's money. By all means necessary, even at the expense of life. Doesn't matter what the motive is. You're wrong. And my thing is, if you're diabolical to do that, indeed, he would do it to his own mother, do it to his own wife, do it to his own children. Why not? What's the difference between Andre and Miss Robbie? Your wife, your friend, a business partner. It's all the same. You have the potential for deception, lie, steal, cheat, manipulate, con, defraud, and the orchestration of murder. And that is one of the most dangerous people walking around. It's the person that has the will, as Andre told the police, the willful intent to manipulate others into murder. That is a very dangerous human being because in the end, he talked two people into conspiring with him to kill his own damn family member. And they did so and they pled guilty. So I don't see how this man could walk in court and say, hey, I didn't do this when the two people that conspired against you, conspired with you rather for payments received after the fact or before the fact rather. Why are they going to go into court and say, yeah, we did this? Think about that for just a second. I'm trying to stay out of prison. What the hell do I look like going into a court saying, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I took money to help kill his nephew. Why would I do that? Unless I knew you had ironclad evidence against me to show I conspired with Tim Norman. So that means they had valid proof. But yet the fool who's the orchestrator, not guilty. I ain't do nothing. I don't know what they're talking about. They just lying on me. See, that's a narcissist. The narcissist won't even acknowledge that the people he hired has pled guilty. And the state has proof that they did it. But yet you go waltz in the court. What me? My hand went in the cookie jar. I didn't do that. Oh, they killed him on their own. They had their own personal problems with Andre. I don't know nothing about it. Well, 12 members of the jury said, hell yeah, you do know something about it because you're the ringleader. Amen. And let's thank the 12 members of the jury. The district attorney's office and the detectives that worked the case because they all played a part in getting this indictment to fruition. 12 members of the court chosen. 12 members of the jury said yay. Thank you, Jesus. God is good. Because what would have been sick if one person hung the jury saying nay. And I'm sure one may have still been in a fog, couldn't accept the evidence because this happens all the time in true crime. There's always the one or two that want to hold out and say, well, I don't know. And I just can't believe they do that. And why would they do that? And they've got money already. And they're well off. Greed. That's why. Greed. My father once said to me, would I be happy if I got like $1 million or whatever? And naturally, I said, yeah, sure. And he said, let me tell you something. If you got $1 million right now, it wouldn't be enough. And I looked at my father and I said, how do you know? You don't know. You don't know me that well enough to say that, do you? Because I didn't feel like he knew me well enough to say that. But in his mind, he thought it wouldn't be enough. So now I have to ask myself that now, many moons later. If I had $1 million given to me today, would it be enough? Because we know about money is that it's easy to spend if, one, you don't have a plan. And as the money starts to dwindle down, you start thinking about what you spent and how you didn't spend it right. And now you're trying to figure out how to recoup back what you spent. And this is what happens when you get money. You don't have enough to put back in the pot if it's a one-time shot at getting the money. And this is why people go broke from getting lump sums of money. Car accidents, lawsuits, inheritance. You start spending the money and it gets good to you. Lord have mercy. And then you start realizing, damn, I've spent quite a bit of money. I've also given out quite a bit of money. Then here comes the begging of more money. Are y'all listening to the queen? Because you should know that once people know you've got the money, they come a begging. Ting, ting. Now, the pot is low. And you're thinking about all the money you've gotten rid of, buying this, getting this, new car, new furniture, new bedding, maybe a few investments, giving out money, loaning out money, and the pot is low. So now you're thinking about all the money you've lost and how in the hell you're going to get it back. But you don't have the fortitude or the skills to put it back. See, it's like winning the lottery. You win $2 million. You get that straight cut. Everybody's got their cut out. Now you're trying to live off that $2 million. But the problem is, how are you going to keep most of the $2 million? Because once you get it, that's it. There's no getting a redo, do over. And as you start spinning out of the pot, you realize you don't have what it takes to put 2 times 2 back in. That's why they say most people who hit the lottery go broke after 3 years. Are you all understanding what the queen is saying to you today? That sometimes it's never enough. Because let's just be truthful. Tim Norman did not have to find 2 people to conspire to kill his nephew in conjunction with the life insurance money. See, it was 2 birds with 1 stone. That's an old saying my mother used to always say. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Indeed, mommy was right. He thought, I'm going to get vengeance, get him out of the way, plus get a pocket full of dough. Ting, triple threat. So it was more than 2 birds. 3 birds. As they say in the street, even swap ain't no swindle. That was a swap. Get him out of the way so he won't be somebody that can get money from my mother in case she dies. 2, he violated my mother by stealing from her allegedly. And 3, I compensate. Twice. Inherit everything from Miss Robbie plus $450,000 from an insurance policy. Bingo card. Stay woke, everybody. You see, a narcissist's mind, as I said, is always in rotation. And a con's mind is always in rotation. A con is thinking even when he's asleep. What can I do to get paid today? Wake up tomorrow. Same agenda. What can I do to get paid. That's the reason why Tim opened up those other franchises without Miss Robbie's permission. He didn't care about his mother. He had no respect for his mother. He was only thinking about money. Because if you're in cahoots with your mother, your name is on any type of businesses with her, you had no reason to lie to her about opening up other businesses, because you two are conjoined together. And as you heard him saying in the audios that I've played, we, us, 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 us. Everybody was talking about the family, the business. But in the end, all that was Miss Sweetie Pies. She was the orchestrator of all that. And whether she needed somebody's help or not, she's still the sole proprietor. And it's only until she decides to delegate, to give it to somebody else, part ownership, she was the head knocker. And I don't think the son accepted that. He wanted more. He needed more. He desired more. And that's where theft, connery, deceit, lies, manipulation, bamboozlement comes in. I got to have more. I need more. I helped her build this. I'm orchestrating this business for her. She's not valuing me. I need my cut, and I want it now. That's the said commentary. I want to thank you all for joining me. December 15th will be the sentence date for Mr. Tim Norman in the orchestration of death of his nephew. 2 other conspirators pled guilty to the said crimes. Ms. Robbie obviously is still supporting this bum. And this is a sad day, because this child could have had possibly a great life. And as I said before, many people have left one city or town to go somewhere else to better himself or herself, but they end up meeting an early demise because of the choices they continue to make and or the company they kept, or happenstance. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is why I say you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to be careful what you claim. You have to be careful what you profess out of your mouth, off your tongue, because all that could come back and haunt you. And perhaps he claimed his death by posting guns to social media. Karma came home. And that's a terrible way of looking at things. But what do you think you're getting out of posting yourself with heavy artillery? You're posting guns and you die by a gun. I think the rest is self-explanatory. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BigAngie, 129 Cash App. Thank you all for the super chats and stickers. God bless all of you. Have a safe weekend. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. Mind the children. Be aware of your surroundings, ladies, while out shopping. Holiday season will be coming up shortly. So please be aware of your surroundings, what you post to social media about your personal business and effects property. Know that there's always someone watching and lurking. You got to stand account for what you put out here in the universe. We're all guilty of doing things we shouldn't be doing and saying. So we have to take ownership at our part. And know there is no snitch rule when it comes to children. Thank you all so much for your time. Have a safe weekend. Have a very safe weekend. This is Big Ange from the High 10. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Thank you for joining me.